It would appear I owe you a bit of an apology. You see, I'm late. Very late, in fact. Now, I don't like being late, okay? No one really does. But it's not like I'm the world's most punctual man in some respects, but I just don't like being late. And I think that was something to do with my late father. He hated being late, and he was a very punctual man. In fact, he hated being late so much, he used to set all the clocks in the house 15 minutes fast. You'd all be sitting down at night to watch your favourite TV show and you'd realise I hadn't come on. Why? Because Dad had set the clocks 15 minutes fast and it obviously wasn't time yet. But I am substantially more than 15 minutes late at the moment. In fact, I'm quite a few months late with this one. Because it is now December, and if you're a regular viewer of AutoEV, you'll know that my old BMW iX2, my long-term test car, went back to BMW back in October, and its replacement had already arrived. And I did say that I'd introduce you to it, but I've been quite busy. Well, now it is time to introduce you to it. So, without further ado, and as I say, with many apologies, welcome to my new long-term test car, which is the Genesis electrified GV70, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, as always, before we start on this episode of AutoEV, where I introduce you to my new long-term test car, it is of course the time where I would ask you to do the usual housekeeping rules, where you make sure you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel, then you press the bell button down below, because then you get notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. And obviously, given the sporadic nature of my videos, sometimes you'll want to know that. And of course, once you've watched it, if you do like it, then give it a little thumbs up, and of course don't forget to make sure that you leave us some comments down below. Let me know what you think about the cars we feature on AutoEV, such as the Genesis GV70, and of course on the channel as a whole. Now, there was a few people that was quite curious. I've obviously been running long-term test cars for a little while now. I had the Megane, which I absolutely loved. I had the BMW, which, a lot of people were a bit confused by why I went for the BMW. But, I did like the car, I have to admit, and it really grew on me. But there was a lot of people who said, oh, you've gone for an expensive electric SUV, which is what everybody has these days. I hope you get something that's a little bit more, sort of like down to earth to replace it. Sorry, no, I've gone for another expensive electric SUV. So why have I gone for a Genesis GV70? Well, the Genesis brand is quite a curiosity for me in some respects, and on the whole, I really like the brand. And unless you've been living under a rock for the last God knows how many years, you all know that it is the sort of the luxury arm of the Hyundai group. I'm not going to call them posh Hyundais, that's wrong. It is a separate manufacturer. Whilst there is a lot of component sharing, the models don't align. It's not just the rebadged Hyundais like Genesis used to be way back when they first introduced it. It was a model within the Hyundai range. Genesis is now a separate brand. But it has been going through a little bit of a shake-up in the UK, because it's fair to say their performance has been somewhat underwhelming in the UK. They tried to sort of like do things differently. They tried to sort of like, do direct sales. They just had Genesis stores, in expensive locations. There's one in Battersea Power Station, in London. I think there's one in Glasgow and all this. There wasn't many showrooms as such. And whilst the after sales package was beyond question, you got a personal assistant who booked the car in for service. It was collected and delivered from you. Got 5-year warranty and all that kind of stuff. I think people in the UK still like old-fashioned car showrooms. I still think we like to go in and look at what we're spending our money on. It's all very well buying something off Amazon, a new jacket or a case for your iPhone or whatever off Amazon. But when it comes to spending what is quite a lot of money on a motor car, this whole click and collect thing, I'm not sure works for some people. And that is where I think Genesis fell down slightly. It has changed, however, now. Genesis in the UK are now they've been brought under Hyundai UK, and whilst they still maintain themselves as a sort of separate entity, they are changing the way that they approach their customers and that they deal with it. In other words, there's going to be dealerships, and you're going to be able to walk in and test drive them and stuff. And I think that's important, and I'm going to explain a lot more why when it comes to this car. Why have I got this car? Okay, so the natural assumption would have been I'd have gone for something like the smaller GV60, which is a brilliant car. And of course, you can get a really quick one of those. You can get the Sport Premium Plus, and it's like they got all the kind of it's like a Kia EV6 GT. It's got the twin motors and 600 horsepower and stuff. I wasn't really fussed about that because I drove the GV70 electric when it came out and I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I thought to myself, maybe this is a car, a bit like the iX2, that I need to spend more time with and I need to get under the skin of. And I quite like this size of car. This suits me and it suits our family. And I'm going to talk a lot about our family with this car. But here's an interesting thing. Last month, in October, this is how late I am. It's just turned the 1st of December, I'm filming this today. In October for my daughter's half term, we came to Scotland to visit my mum, and we always have half term up here. And I brought up their flagship GV80, which is not electric, it's just a petrol engine car. I've done a review on that on my other channel, House of Cars, and I have to say, I didn't get on with that car that well. I really didn't rate it at all. But I really love this one. And in this video, I'm going to introduce you to the car and its specification and all the rest of it. But I'm also going to tell you why I've judged this car wrongly in its review. And I've really changed my mind on it. I'm going to start with how the car looks to me, because I really like it. I think it's a really good looking car. I like Genesis styling. And very interestingly, it overlapped with the BMW going. This car arrived before the BMW went back. And I did something really, really stupid. I turned around and said to my other half, Liz, I said, you have the keys for the Genesis and I'll keep running the BMW. And I've struggled to, this is the first time I've done a long drive in the car, bringing it up to Scotland on my own, because I've not been able to get her out of the car. She loves this car, absolutely loves it, and I'll talk a bit more about that a bit later on. But what I'm telling you about that story was, she was dropping Katie, our daughter, off at her drama club one Saturday morning in this car, and one of Katie's little classmates was walking past and with his mum, and turned around and says, "Mum, look, that's the new Bentley SUV." So Genesis, if you're being compared to a Bentley, you're probably doing the right thing. And in fairness, their design department is headed by Luke Donkervolk, ex-Bentley designer, and Sang-Yup Lee, ex-Bentley designer. Make of that what you will. But I do like the look of this car. It's not perfect, but I do like it. So it's got the Genesis familiar twin blade lights that you'll see around the car, and the big crest grille, which isn't a grille, but I like the front of this car. I really do, because not only I think it's distinctive and obviously looks like a Bentley, it's got the world's best charging flap. Look at that. You can't even see that. You talk about camouflage. David Attenborough could do a whole episode on how well camouflaged that charging flap is. And obviously it's at the front, so it doesn't matter when you pull into a parking bay. You just pull in straight forward, straight on, and of course it means that you can charge it. The downside is when I park in my driveway, I like to reverse into my drive. I've now got to go forward in because my cable won't stretch to that. Never mind. First world issue, that. The only bit that slightly grates on me is the plastic down at the bottom there, this grille here. I'd quite like that maybe to have been like a black wire mesh or something, just feel a bit more premium. It is just black plastic, but it's all right. I mean, I'm splitting hairs with that. I'm in a lot of tech on the car, huge amount of tech on it, as you'd expect from Hyundai Group. So you've got your radar guided cruise control there, the sensor for it. There's a beautifully discreet camera, way nicer than BMW have done with a big wart on its nose, but a really nice little forward facing camera in the middle. So it's my OCD, just above the number plate. Of course, you get the winged Genesis badge at the top there, which you can't really see on this white car, and I'll talk about the spec of it later. But you've got nice sort of like bonnet, sort of like a valley almost that runs down the bonnet, where the wings just nestle neatly in the bottom there. The only bit that really grates on me is this bit here, where the bonnet goes over the top of the front nose area. It looks a bit like an overbite, and I can't not see that as soon as I look at it. I just think that could have been better resolved. I've always thought that. Just feels odd that the bonnet is overlapping the front of the car. And again, it's a bit awkward here, which you'll see more in the side profile, the way the shut line works. But it does go into a really nice line down the side. But on the whole, I like the look of the car. I think it's very distinctive. It gets a lot of people talking. A lot of people come up to you and say, "What is that?" They've never heard the Genesis, obviously apart from 10-year-old boys who think it's a Bentley. But you know what I mean, there's a lot of people who come up to you and ask, what is it and what's it? So it's getting itself noticed, which is a good thing. Now the GV70 doesn't sit on the eGMP platform that underpins the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the GV60 and the Kia EV6. It shares its platform with a combustion engine car, because you can have a GV70 with petrol. I think you might have even got diesel engines. Yes, I think you did. You got diesel engines in them as well. So it doesn't have things like 800-volt architecture or things like that. However, the electrical architecture in the car is very good, and we will talk about that in the usability section. Class-wise, what is it? Well, it sits in a class of something like BMW iX3, the Audi Q5, if you're talking to combustion engine cars, so maybe the new Q6 e-tron with Audi, Mercedes-Benz EQC 400, that size of car. It's that sort of size of vehicle. So small, sort of medium-sized SUV, not a crossover, it is an SUV, and it's dual motor, so 4-wheel drive, as you'd want. One trim level it comes in when you go for the electric one, and that's Sport, which is a bit of a misnomer to me. I wish they hadn't called it Sport, and again, that's something to discuss, because it's not really a sporty car. It's fast, but it's not sporty like the BMW was. It's very different, and I think that's led a lot of people to misunderstand the car, and maybe in some respects. 19-inch wheels come as standard, but these, I've gone for the optional 20s, which I really like. I love the design of them. Look like something you get in a Swiss Army knife to take out a nail out a horse's hoof. I really like the wheel arch treatment as well. There's no black cladding on it, it's all body colour. And you'd find that as you go into the premium brands, like BMW, Audi, Mercedes, Jaguar. And Genesis have gone down the same route as well, so it's body colour around the side, and I really like that. But it's got some nice contours and some nice lines on it. That line I was telling you about there, where it's weird where the bonnet is on the the horizontal there, but then as it moves, this shut line goes up into a vertical, and but then creates that strong line that comes along and then drops down at the back there. But then another one comes out of that rear door to give it this kind of muscular rear arch. There's chrome on it, which again is something that I think, if you watch my GV80 review on House of Cars, I talk a bit about it. I am a bit surprised at it, because I think chrome is sort of yesterday's idea of luxury, not today's or the future's idea of luxury. And also it's not particularly sustainable either, chrome. But there is a lot of chrome on it, So you get the chrome down the bottom of there, it runs on the bottom of the door, chrome window line, and one that kind of drops down there. Now, there is a new GV70 that's just been shown at the LA Motor Show, which has new styling. Not much, they've changed a little bit on the outside, and they've changed the dashboard as well, I've noticed. But I think they've done away with the chrome on it. So the one I saw in pictures was all blacked out, so maybe they've done away with the chrome, but my car has the chrome. So there we go. Like I say, some tech on it. You get the little cameras embedded under the mirror there, side repeaters, privacy glass on the back, and obviously around there. You obviously get things like, keyless entries. You walk up, you can just open it and that's it. Good tyres on the car as well. Michelin Pilot Sports on the car, which has been great for the weather, because it is absolutely filthy up here. I washed this car twice this morning to get the dirt off it, because obviously, as you can see, I'm back in Scotland. So yeah, anyway, that's that. Let's go around the back of it and finish off the bit of styling. Rear end, very curvaceous, very curved at the back, rather than being upright, it really curves down. Big roof spoiler. Now, I love this bit about it. There's a full width brake light that goes along. It's just a little strip, and when you see it come on, it just goes the whole width of the back at the top. Genesis lighting signature I really like. And of course, you get the twin blades to mirror what you get at the front. On the GV80, you've got twin sort of side strakes down, almost like Bentley Aston Martin style. They don't do it on the GV70, and I'm sort of glad that they don't. So it's just nice. It's a bit more subtle than the big 80. The other thing I like about it is the boot release, which is a button on the wiper blade. This isn't a separate opening glass, but to open the boot, you press the button on the wiper blade and it comes up electronically. Of course, you get your Genesis lettering across the back and the badge. There's no real way to tell it's the electric model. There's no badging on it to say it's an EV. Obviously, your green flash on the number plate if you want it. But other than that, there isn't really any way. The petrol ones do have big oval tailpipes, but you get a nice smoothed off bum on the GV70 electric, or the electrified GV70 as it's titled. Your reverse camera is tucked underneath there, and then fog light at the bottom. But as I say, that's the one thing I do like, is the boot release up there, so you're not, because especially on a day like today, putting your hand on a filthy boot lid, you're just pressing this or using the key remote. But styling wise, I think it's a great looking car. I really like this car. And I went for the pearlescent white, which obviously in December I'm now regretting. But the original road test review that we did in the car was there was a matte grey that we did on it, and I thought that looked really nice. Genesis is a brand that suits some of those matte finishes with their styling on it, so there is a good choice of colours available on the car as well. So maybe avoid the white. I don't know why I went for the white, because of the spec of the car. As I say, during the winter time, I maybe should have thought about that, but never mind. Anyway, my point is, I like the look of it, okay? So it's a good looking car. To my eyes, okay? What's it like to your eyes? What do you think? Have you got one? Did you buy it primarily because of how it looked? Did you not buy it because of how it looked? Do you prefer the look of the other cars in its class? Is that what you've gone for? Have you gone for an iX3 or an Audi e-tron? What did you buy instead of a GV70? Did you even know the GV70 existed? Because I've had one guy on House of Cars say, didn't even know Genesis as a brand in the UK existed, and he says, I'm into my cars. Did you even know about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. Right, boot space. See what I mean? That button, really handy that. I like that. 503 litres of boot space, okay? So, usable. Very usable in terms of that. Now, unfortunately, we've not, as a family, used the car to do any big trips in. As I say, this is its first long journey with me today, or the other day, and I've obviously just got things like rucksack, you know, my overnight bag and my jacket and stuff, so I've not crammed it full of stuff. But 503 litres of boot space. It has a standard split 60-40 split rear seat. If you fold that down, it goes up to 1,678 litres. The only thing I will say about the boot space, however, is it's very shallow. You know, the distance, and it's the same on things like the Kia EV6 and Hyundai Ioniq 5. They're the same, you know, so they've got a very shallow boot, I think. So the volume is there, but it's just not particularly handy for if you've got sort of taller items and you want to put them underneath the parcel shelf. But obviously you do have the parcel shelf, which you can take off and handily store in the back here, which I do like that. That's something I do like. So when you use the car for going to the tip, you know, you don't have to leave the parcel shelf behind. You can just load it in there. And obviously if you are using it, you know, because you need the extra height, you know, for suitcases and things, you don't have to leave that at home, so you can just tuck it underneath the boot floor and that's fine. The only thing is, underneath the boot floor there is some space. You know, I've got things like, you know, there's a luggage net there, the handbooks, which are like the biggest I've ever seen. Look at the size of these handbooks, there's 2 of them, they're huge. And there's vehicle to load. But there isn't really any cable storage under here. I mean, if you took all that stuff out, you probably could wrap a cable and put it underneath there. So your Type 2 cable, if you're using external chargers, like I'll need to do tonight in Lockerbie, it comes in a bag. Used to come in a case that was, you know, maybe that's why they've moved it to a bag, because it doesn't take up as much space, but it used to come in a nice little case. Anyway, there you go. So yeah, it's not ideal, you know, I say the volume's there, but it's maybe not as practical as it could be with height. You do get the ability to fold the rear seat down from the rear here, which I do like cars that do that, and the load entry is nice and flat. So if you're lifting heavy items up, you don't have to drop them down in or then lift them back out. It's a nice load entry in. So, but it's been fine for us. As I say, I haven't really put it to the test too much when it comes to practicality, but that's the only thing I will say in terms of height. With the parcel shelf in place, it's not ideal. Good on volume, good, you know, square floor space, but it's not great on height. Now the rear seat space, not that I've sat in the rear of it, to be fair with you, is okay. You know, I mean, it's not huge back here. I'd say it's probably on a par in some respects with the iX2. You know, so it's very, very similar to that. Because obviously it's shared a platform with a combustion engine car, there is a transmission tunnel down here, but it's tiny. You know, it's only about, you know, just under an inch in depth, I would say. So you will get 3 across if you really need to. And obviously there's 3 belts for those people. Plus as well, amusingly, to the children I had in the car the other week, there is the ability to push your passenger forward electrically from the back as well. I had my daughter and 2 of her friends in the car, and one of them was sat in the front with me, and she kept moving the seat that William was sat on to keep going backwards and forwards, much to his annoyance, but it's hugely fun for the rest of them. So you do have that, and the seat itself is quite comfortable. I can get my feet underneath the seat when it's in my position. I'm 5'8", and so that's absolutely fine. I think if Liz was driving, on saying that, it has slid back a little bit because with the electric memory seats, it does have that easy access. So it's probably a little bit further forward for me, but that's probably Liz's driving position. So yeah, I probably could get behind her, in fairness. Matron. What else have you got back here? Well, you've got to option up something. I think it's the convenience pack. I'll go through the spec of this car in a second. The rear seat convenience pack, which gives you rear aircon with heated seats on the outer, laminated side glass, and the side blinds in it. That's an option in the car. And we'll talk about options when I get to the price bit, because it's the one bit I'm still not sure of with the car. Right, what else have we got? We've got connectivity with 2 USB-A ports down there. Storage is okay because you get the mat pockets there. And fold down armrest with cup holders in it, and rear door bins as well, which aren't lined, but they've actually almost got like soft touch, sort of like plastic really round them. You know, they've got quite nice sort of like finish to them. They're not sharp edged is what I'm trying to say, so things won't rattle around too much, but it would be nice maybe to have a little bit of carpet or a bit of rubber out in there. Other than that, oh sorry, and I've obviously got the panoramic sunroof in this car, which also has the light headlining as well. So it does make the car feel quite open. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the quality in terms of, you know, the car feeling a bit more premium than you would maybe get. And it is silly things that I do notice now I've been living with it, you know, such as, you know, the little metal coat hooks, you know, on the pillars, you know, for hanging your coat on, and things like that, you know, and some of the materials up the front. And that's another reason why I think the GV70 is actually a bit better than the GV60. But anyway, look, let's jump up into the front and I'll talk you through what it's like in the driver environment. Now, the observant amongst you will have noticed there is now a different outlook in front of the car. There's a reason for that. Now, I have to admit my own fallibility here. The problem is I record all AutoEV reviews, in fact all the House of Cars reviews, on a phone, on my iPhone, okay? So we don't use a camera, we use iPhones. And of course, when I was recording the interior shots, you know, so the car running and then obviously the driving shot when I was in Scotland, and I didn't check it, and it was my own stupid fault. I got home and realised, hang on a minute, why is there no sound? It's because the phone was linked to the Bluetooth. So it cut the microphones off. So apologies, I've had to do this again. Right, look, as I say, we've obviously road tested the car before. I don't want to go on too much about it, but just a very, very quick thing of the interior, what I really like about the interior of the car, because again, you know, the road test review, you live with the car for a week, you're trying to sort of really get under the skin of it, but that's why we do these long-term reviews, is you don't really start to appreciate a car until you really live with it, and I really appreciate this car. The first thing they appreciate is the comfort and the refinement of it. You know, it feels like a luxury car in here, and you know, and credit to Genesis for that, because they've really pulled all the stops out, I think. And I do actually think, you know, it feels a lot more luxurious than the equivalent BMW, Mercedes-Benz and Audi. There's just a feeling of luxury in here, which means that, you know, again, what I was saying earlier about the sport tag, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really fit with the car. Anyway, by the by, lovely soft, I don't know if it's not leather or not, it certainly feels like it, but you know, it's got the double stitch that runs across. My car's got the optional Napa leather on the seats, and of course you've got the seats that have the comfort bit that comes up from under your thigh, and they've got the massage function. Now that is an option, and obviously we'll talk about options and stuff, but you know, it's not cheap, but goodness me, it feels nice, you know, when you use it. The screen up here that you've got up here is operated two ways. So it is a touch screen, but as you can see, you've got to lean forward to do it. But you can also use this rotary dial here, you know, that you get with BMW, the old iDrive controllers. And it works the same way, you know, it moves on the different planes, and plus you turn it and it moves, so that's good. The navigation system, it's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but the navigation system in, let me put the map up, is really good. And what I really like about it is if you put your destination in here, and obviously as the car needs to put, I know it's not the only car that does it, but I've appreciated it. But that trip to Scotland and back, using the inbuilt navigation rather than CarPlay like Google Maps or stuff, because it then logs in your charging points, it's giving you suggested charging positions. What it then does is two things. It gives you an up-to-date synopsis of how many charging bays are available, which I think is excellent, but it then also starts to precondition the battery before you get to the charging bay, which is superb. So actually, the time I was stopped charging the car both up and down, the car charged a lot quicker than I expected it to. which meant actually, I was inside like having a coffee and a cup of tea, or a bun or whatever, and I come out after having done some emails, thinking the car's going to be, still got 10 minutes to go, and it's done. So that is superb, the fact that it preconditions the battery, and it really opened my eyes up to preconditioning a lot. But we'll do another video on that in the car. I love this little screen down here for the heating and ventilation. This is getting a redesign for 2025 when it gets the big long screens. It does away with instrument binnacle, which I'm a bit sad about because I do quite like the instrument binnacle. It's nice, it's got a nice view in it. And these are going to move as well. And again, I'm quite sad about that. I do like this little touch screen. You've got a lot of physical controls around the car, so for turning the temperature up and down, turning it on and off. But there's a central screen where they've got some touch sensitive things for like lesser things you need, such as the heated steering wheel, heated seats and stuff. But when you do press it, you get haptic feedback on it, which is nice. And then you've got a row of physical shortcut buttons down there, and then you've got this group of controllers here. My only slight criticism, and I'd said it in the original road test, is I think the controller for the screen and the gear shift should be swapped around, because every time I get in the car to go into drive, I turn the controller for that should be an ancillary thing further back. But my immediate thing is where my hand falls, where I expect a transmission lever to be, it's not. It's the turny thing for that. The transmission's behind it. 2 cup holders. You get a wireless charging pad, which is nice, and it covers it up, down, and there. I say the seats are superb. These have got Napa leather, and they've got sort of the massage function as well, which starts to activate if you've been driving for too long. It is an option, but it's an option I would certainly choose again, I have to admit. And I like the steering wheel. It's Genesis' nicest steering wheel, the 3-spoke design. My only slight beef is the boost button is in the wrong place. They've put it there, so you've got to remove your hand from the wheel to touch it. And of course, you've only got your hold of the wheel with one hand when you press it. You should have it in both hands. It'd be better like the GV60 if it had a button underneath here, so you can just hold onto the wheel and push it with your thumb, but you've actually got to move your hand. Anyway, I don't use it that much anyway. But on the whole, the overriding thing about the interior that I've really loved about the car is, first of all, the quality of it, the use of materials, although there's no talk of sustainability, that's a wee downside from Genesis, but the quality of the materials, how refined it feels and how comfortable it is. I really like this interior, I really do. I think it's a great place to spend, and it feels expensive. I mean, it is expensive, but it certainly feels it. Now, I told you a little bit of an untruth at the start of this. I got it in my head, because it doesn't come with the eGMP platform, but you still get 800 volt architecture on the GV70, which I find quite incredible. The fact that it is a combustion engine car's platform, but you still get the very, very best of electrical architecture that's out there at the moment. I apologise for that. That's a mistake of mine, so apologies on that. Right, a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, and according to WLTP figures and Genesis, that should give you a range of up to 283 miles. It doesn't do that, obviously not. Now, I use the EV database when I get all my kind of real world data down at the bottom, and they suggest looking at around about 235 miles in mild weather. That's what it will do. I've charged it up to 100%, a couple of times, and I've got in it, and it's been saying around about 230 miles, 220 miles at the moment, because we're in the sort of colder month. It's not cold, but it's cold air, so it's round about that sort of figure. So it's not much different to the BMW, which are a smaller battery. Now, next year, I think, with the facelifted car, it's going to get the new battery. I think it's 84 kilowatt hours, which is in the Kia EV6 and the new Ioniq 5. So I think the battery capacity raises up on this, so you might see better range in the newer cars that are coming out. But obviously we're going to have to test that and find that out. But basically that's what you're looking at, around about 230 miles in everyday sort of use. Okay, right. But really quick charging speeds on the car, I've written 350 kilowatts. I'll let you check that. But anyway, 10 to 80% in 18 minutes, and it does do that. It does do that, and that's what I was saying to you when I was charging up, coming up. It's a really quick car to charge. So the actual time you're stopping, as long as you're using those ultra rapid chargers, the time you're actually stopped charging up on the move is minimal. And as I say, if you use that navigation system that's built into the car, it knows, because it's already got your charges logged into it, so it starts to precondition the battery. It's really good. It's really, really good at that. That's what I will say. Charging up on your home wall box, if you've got a 7 kilowatt wall box like I have, it's about 11 hours, I think it is, to go from flat to full. But it also has an onboard 11 kilowatt charger, so if you can access that faster 3-phase electricity, then that is superb. And I mentioned also as well, you've got vehicle to load on the car. So if you I don't know, somebody was saying the other day, if your plug from your leaf blower doesn't stretch to the garage or something, you just run it off the car, and blow the leaves off your driveway. And I was just buy a rechargeable battery one if I was you. But you can charge it obviously off things, things off it, and power things off the car as well, and the adapters in the boot. So, but on the whole, as I say, whilst the range is slightly disappointing in some respects, the efficiency therefore, the way the car charges, I think makes up for that, because the actual time you then stop is very minimal, and you're on your way again. So I have to say there is a negative with it, but there is a positive with the car when we've been using the car on longer trips like I have at the moment. Now, the one thing that the GV70 electrified, or electrified GV70, depending on how you want to say it, doesn't lack is power. 480 horsepower from this thing. This will do 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. It's blooming quick. And I'm not necessarily saying that it needs all that, And this was my when I first road tested the car, this was not my beef with it. I don't have a beef with the car, it's a lovely car. But I just felt it wasn't that sporty to drive and didn't really need all that power. And that's my point, they call it the sport, the trim, the sport. I don't think it is, It doesn't. You could lose 100 horsepower out of this car, and actually, I don't think anyone would ever be any the wiser in some respects. Or actually, the point you just don't need it. I mean, it's a quick old car. Even with sort of 380 horsepower, it'd be fast. Anyway, that's what it does. Okay, so but my the big thing for me, the big tick in the box for me, as I keep saying to you, is the comfort and the refinement. It is superb. A couple of things, traffic lights. A couple of things about it. It's got adaptive dampers, which makes it much nicer to drive than the big GV80 SUV. That's the car I took up to Scotland the time before. And I didn't really get on with it, It just felt jiggly all the time. This is better. Now, I'm not sure whether that's to do with the weight of the battery, maybe just keeping the car a bit further down and they've tuned the suspension a bit differently. That could be a case. I haven't driven a petrol version of one of these, so I'd be interested, or a diesel one. I'd be quite interested to drive one just to see the compare. But this feels beautifully compliant on the road. Really nice ride quality you get from the car. Plus, allied to the nice comfortable seats, means that actually, it's much more luxury car than sport. That's the reason why I don't think we should call it the sport. There we go. The steering's, again, not as precise as something like the iX2 or say a Jaguar I-Pace, which was a car that I remember when I had the original car. I had not long since had the Jaguar I-Pace for a test again, and I realised how good the Jaguar was. This isn't really in the same league as the I-Pace, but it's very, very nice to drive. It is a very nice car to drive, I have to say. And there's an element of me, with this whole Jaguar rebrand. And obviously they're pushing really a far up market, Jaguar. They're going to start at, say, £120,000 now. There's an awful lot of customers that are about to abandon. If you've had an I-Pace, not an inexpensive car at round about £70,000, but £70,000 to £120,000 is a big old jump. I think you should look at, if you're going to change your I-Pace, have a look at Genesis, because they do the whole comfort and refinement thing really well. I think Genesis could mop up where Jaguar are losing out. Go and write the Jaguar a check for their database, Genesis. There you go. There's the salesman in me coming back out. Opportunity there. Driving position's excellent. I really like driving position. The seat, as I say, whilst very, very comfortable, certainly on a longer drive, it doesn't quite have the same hold you beautifully positioned driving position of the BMW that obviously this car has replaced. But it doesn't. Please don't take that to mean that it's uncomfortable, because it's anything but uncomfortable. It's just the BMW was so good, with its driving position and its seat. This is very nice indeed. I talked about refinement. There's active noise cancellation as well in the Genesis. So, you know, you can hear a tiny little bit of noise coming from the road, and that's mainly down to a little bit of tyre noise and a little bit of bump thump from the suspension when you go over some heavily rutted bits, but not much. And that's it. The active noise cancelling on the car works really, really well, and cancels out all extraneous external noises. So refinement's excellent on the car. You know, you can't really fault it at all, you know, from that point of view. I keep going back to using Lexus as maybe a yardstick for many reasons, you know, and one of them was obviously in terms of how Lexus, when they first came out, how good they were at, you know, sort of like cancelling out noise and making you feel very cosseted. They really focused on luxury rather than sports, and I think that's what I mean by the Genesis as well. They've done the same, you know. As I say, the steering's not as precise maybe as some of the more sporting cars in its class, but it doesn't really matter. It's nice, it's manoeuvrable round about town, so that's all good. You know, we've certainly got no complaints about it from that point of view. I do prefer the steering wheel in the GV70 as well over the GV60 and the other cars, that more simplified two-spoke design. It's just, this is just slightly nicer to hold, this three-spoke one, and the buttons are just nicely on, you know, they're pushed into the spokes, and they're physical buttons. I do like that. Last thing I want to talk about is cancelling out your driver aids. You know, if you don't want your, you know, things like the speed limit warning and things like that. Now, Kia, Hyundai and Genesis now as well are doing, my car doesn't have it because I think it's I don't know if it's an over-the-air update or not, but you press and hold the volume button on the steering wheel for more than 3 seconds and it cancels out the speed limit warning. I've just been driving a Kia EV9 and EV6 and that's what they do. I think Genesis are doing it as well, but my car doesn't have it, but I'm not sure if that's an over-the-air update or whether it's something that's going to be, has to be physically changed. But even so, what I've done is I've put, you know, my favourite, this button here, the star favourite. If you press that, it brings up this screen, which is the vehicle settings, and then you just go and turn it off. So speed limit there. Oh, hang on, he says. But we shouldn't have done this coming up to a roundabout. That's very, very bad, isn't it? And then that's it off. So there you go, that's it. And then the other thing that I'm not so keen on, obviously, is lane keep assist, because I find it's like the wheel's tugging at it's tugging away the wheel from you. If you press and hold the button here, again, it turns it off. So it's nice and simple. You'd have to go into loads of different screens, but see, even that is changing in fairness. I don't know what else to really say about it. I really love this car. It's really got under my skin. It's really got under my wife's skin. Liz adores this car. Can't get out of it. I've barely driven it. She's the one that's been driving the thing now. We've done just under 2,000 miles in it since we've had it in the last, you know, couple of months. How long have we had it now? Gosh, no, nearly 4 months now. And it's been superb. It really has. There's not a squeak. There's not a rattle from it. You know, it's well built. There's been no issues with it. I've had no software glitches. I've had no reliability issues with it at all. It's all been good. It's as I say, it's a hard car to fault in some respects, apart from the price. But what I will say about it is a car that really, really grows on you. You go and drive it initially, you know, a 10-minute test drive, you'll go, yeah, it's lovely, it's very, very nice, you know, it does what I need it to do, but actually, you know, I'll just go and buy a BMW and a Mercedes. See if the Genesis guys will loan you it for longer, you know, 24 hours, 40 hours, over a weekend or something, and go and do something with it. Because I tell you what, when you've been living with it for a while, you really start to appreciate what they've done as a manufacturer. And I think this is a real hidden gem in the market. I really do. I really like this car. I'm glad I got it. Now, it's not all rosy with the car. And naturally, it now comes to price. And this is where it falls down slightly. This is not a cheap car. Not a cheap car at all, okay? I'm not going to kid anybody on about this. So the range starts, so you only get the one trim level, the Sport, in the GV70. And it kicks off at £64,300. Now that would be fine if this car here was £64,300 with all the bits on it. It's not. You've really got to go through the options and start ticking boxes to get the spec on the car. And by God, does it soon add up. Okay, so let me run you through the spec of my car. So The pearlescent paint, this a uni white, which I really quite like. And it's £750. You know, it's not like they're charging over £1,000 like some people are. But anyway, it's still a cost option. Okay. But then there's this car's got the innovation pack. Okay. Now the innovation pack gives you. I did write it down here. Hang on a second, where's it gone? Innovation pack. So that's the head-up display, surround view monitor, blind spot view monitor, remote smart parking assist. You know, with the key, you can use that. The car will go in and out the parking bays itself. Dual LED headlights with intelligent front lighting system and a 12.3-inch 3D cluster display. Right, that innovation pack is £3,620. So it's got that. It's also got the comfort seat pack. Okay, so it's got the you know, this bit where the bit comes up underneath your legs, and you know, it's very nice. But it's, you know, I mean, that's an expensive option as well, 1,660. Lexicon audio system, brilliant audio system. It's £1,000. Okay, Napa leather seat pack, 2,350. Outdoor pack. Not quite sure what that is. I'm not sure what the outdoor pack is, but it's got it. £900. Sunroof pack, 1,460. The sunroof's an option. 20-inch wheels, £630. White calipers, £230. Sorry, £280. This car here on the road is 79,655 quid. Just a tickle under 80 grand. There is no doubt in my mind that that is an obscene amount of money for this car, okay? And it is a wee bit of a downside on it. However, there is a plus point. Listen to this. If you delve into the used car website that starts with an A and is quite popular with people, you can get one of these now, not that old, with say 10 to 15,000 miles on it, for around about 40 grand. Now £40,000 is still a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but I tell you what a hell of a lot of car you're getting at 40 grand. That is unbelievably good value of money. Unfortunately, it means that if you're buying one new, you're taking a massive hit on depreciation. But a lot of electric cars are quite heavy depreciating, especially these electric SUVs. You know, BMW iX is no different, you know, and that's a BMW. You know, so the one balance out, you know, where it's very expensive to buy new, and you're going to get a massive amount of depreciation if you are writing a cheque for it. The flip side is if you're in the used car market and you're looking for an electric SUV, what a lot of car you can get. For the price of a new Astra Electric, you could be driving one of these. Where do I sign? Because I know what I'd rather be driving. That's phenomenal. And of course, with the going in the second-hand market with the Genesis, you still then get the balance of the manufacturer's warranty and the service package and stuff like that. It's a no-brainer, it really is, as long as it's on the second-hand car market. Now, obviously, if you're maybe leasing the car and you're looking at it from an company car point of view, I'm sure there are probably some decent deals out there. But do watch if you are buying the car new. Don't buy it and then go, I'm only going to keep it for a year and then I'm going to trade it in for something else, because by golly, are you going to feel some pain. But if you're a used car buyer, or as I say, you're a company car driver or you're leasing one, you know, what a lot of car. Absolutely load of car. And as I say, with the after sales package, absolutely fantastic. So that's my Genesis electrified GV70. And what I'm finding with this car so far is, for every negative, I can find a positive for it, okay? Let's start with some of those positives. I really like the way it looks. I really do like the look of the car. I like the size of it. I love the way it drives. I really do love the way it drives. It is a supremely comfortable car. I don't think I had really appreciated it in that week that I had the car in for a review, how nice it was to drive on a long drive, on a properly big long road trip drive. It is blissfully quiet and so comfortable and so refined. And this is my point, you know, with Genesis. You need to go and drive one of these. If you are looking at one of these cars, you need to take a proper drive in it. You know, just see if Genesis will do like a 24-hour test drive or a weekend test drive and properly drive it. Because when you do that, You know, you never experience what this car's like over, 10, 15 minutes taking it down the road with a salesman in the back. You'll never experience what it's like. You'll come back and go, oh, that's really nice. And then you'll go and drive a BMW iX3 or a Volvo XC40 Recharge or whatever. And then you'll go, oh, but they're nice too. And you'll buy the one that you're familiar with. You're missing out a little bit by not spending more time with this, because the more time you spend with it, the more it comes, the more comes out, and the more you start to really appreciate it. The negative to that positive is the cost. There's no doubt about it. This is a really expensive motor car. Really expensive motor car. You know, and the depreciation is horrific. So, but again, there's the positive, isn't it? If you're a used car buyer, God, what a lot of car you can buy for your budget. You know, if your budget's around about 40 grand, get yourself one of these. It's fantastic. It really is. Here's an interesting thing I was thinking about the other day. The new Jaguar branding came out the other week, okay, when I'm filming this, and everyone went, the internet blew up, and everyone went, oh, it's all gone a bit woke, and it's all gone a bit, what Jaguar doing, they're forgetting their heritage and stuff like that. Genesis, you need to jump on that, because I tell you what, this to me is a car you'd replace, dare I suggest, something like an F-Pace with. If you were going all electric and you had an F-Pace or an E-Pace or something, you're thinking, I want something similar to that. Jaguar are abandoning you. Jaguar are moving way up market. This is the car that you should look at, because it's beautifully refined, really quiet, sporty enough when you want it to be. This is this is where there's a market there for you, Genesis. Jump onto it, because this is the car that fills the gap that Jaguar are leaving. And when you look at Genesis's range, the big G80 saloon, which I really like, that, you'd replace your XF or your XJ. That's a great car, GV80 I'm not so struck on, but they're good cars in the Genesis. They just, people need to understand them and get them. So if you're a Jaguar driver and you're thinking Jaguar's gone a bit loopy, what are they thinking of? Go and drive a Genesis, because trust me on that, I think you'll really like it. I certainly do, and I think this is a really, really good car. The negative is, over there is Lochmaben Golf Club, and I've had a couple of people say to me, there's a whiff of golf club about that car, Brian. And I do get where they're coming from, I do understand that. It sits there with Lexus and, dare I say, where Jaguar were, and you can see them in a kind of golf club car park. I can get that. As a man who doesn't play golf, I do understand what you're saying. But I do think it's a real hidden gem, and I'm loving my time with it. And I'm going to do an awful lot more with it, over the next month, if I can get the keys off Liz. That's the other downside with it, because when your other half drives it and she falls in love with it, you'll never see it again. Barely got it up here this weekend. Anyway, that's enough of me chatting. Thank you for watching this long-term test introduction of the new Genesis electrified GV70 in my life. I hope you have enjoyed this week's video. If you have, then obviously give it a little thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel and press the bell button that's down below, because then you get notified when the next video is uploaded and it goes live. And if you're watching the long-term reviews, there's also a little playlist as well. If you want to see what our life with the long-term cars that we're on is like, you'll go into the little playlist and you'll find them all there. And I try to do the same type of videos for each car that I run, so hopefully it'll give you a good idea what these cars are like to live with. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, social media for across all that as well. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, X. So give us a follow there as well if you will. That'd be appreciated. And if you are in the market, for an electric car, it might not be a new one. Maybe you're looking for a used GV70 and you need to know a little bit more about it, other than watching this video, or maybe you're looking at a BMW iX or something. You need to know what, all the details about it. How do you find out? We'll stick on the AutoEV homepage on the YouTube channel. Just at the top there's a little magnifying glass. If you type the name of the model you're interested in there, it will bring up the road test review of the car. Because remember, if it's been a new electric car introduced into the UK in the last, whatever it's been, 4 or 5 years now we've been going, we'll have subjected it to the road test review that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. And that's the AutoEV one, folks. Right, that's enough of me. It's stopped raining now, which is good. It's a bit grey up here, but never mind. I'm going to go off and have a cup of coffee with my son. So I shall see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting us. See you next time.